you didn't have experience in ice cream and you didn't have experience in marketing
Right.
from the universities.
Yes.
But you are a social media guru.
I'm still that crazy girl who's obsessed with ice cream, who's amazed by ice cream. I now know, because of being a line chef, how to take those crazy ideas and crazy flavors and turn them into ice cream. What you're going through right now, picture yourself tomorrow. That Renee, she's already gotten over today. She's already conquered today. Because the line of business that we're in, it's not that we're making anything on the spot. The hard work is in the preparation to the day. All you have to do is just enjoy yourself now. And when he told me that, I was like, that's true. Hi, you want a popsicle? Hi, you want a ice cream? Not everything is going to be perfect, and I'm going to fail and fail and fail and fail over and over and over again.
Welcome to the Blueprints podcast, where we dive deep into leadership, innovation, and the transformative ideas. I am your host, Dr. Jelani Reid, and on today's episode, we are going to dive deep into a story that is rich and fulfilling as a perfectly churned up pint of ice cream. Imagine a scorching hot day in Trinidad, and you have a feel for a scoop of something cold and indulgent. You are accustomed ordering food at your fingertips. What about ice cream? And that was the very question that sparked a revolution in entrepreneurship in the local ice cream industry. Our next guest, she didn't just start a brand. She crafted an experience that I know all of us are enjoying and very much proud of. So today, on our episode on the Blueprints, we are going to dive deep into peeling the layers of who Renee Andrews is. What were the challenges that she encountered in bringing about an idea into reality? And of course, entering into a market that is mostly male-dominated in that of business. Welcome to the Blueprints, Renee.
Wow. I don't need to say anymore. I can go home now. Thank you for that wonderful intro. I appreciate that.
Well, the reality is that the introduction is about you, and it's
Yes.
your achievements.
I sat here like, oh, I sound good, Thank you so much for that. Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is definitely ours.
Yes.
So, Renee, we have a pretty much good idea about who you are.
Right.
We learned that you started your culinary journey at the age of 9.
Right.
And cooking for your family.
Correct.
So, in the Blueprints, we like to get to know deeply who the person is.
Right.
So, who is Renee Andrews, and how did those experiences when you were young
Right.
have brought you to this point today?
Okay, sure. Renee Andrews is this young, well, I'm starting from young, individual who has always been amazed by ice cream. I always say amazed because it's always been that one thing that I'd gravitate to. I've always found myself in the kitchen. I remember about 2 years back, one of my past friends, he met me and he said, Renee, when we were in preschool, did you know you wanted to become a chef? You told me that. I said, aren't we like 5? How could I have told you that? I said, I have no knowledge of telling you this. So apparently it's been something embedded in me from since then. So it's so funny that I heard that from him. And I've always just found myself in the kitchen, no matter how, far I was supposed to be. I've always found myself back into the kitchen. It's something that I loved. Growing up, my cousin Rebecca would always spend time with us, and she was a lover of the kitchen. She was always in the kitchen. She was always making something. And I just found myself gravitating towards that, I had no prior knowledge. My mom, I love you, but she's not a home cook. She's not, like that. So it was never something like that, I saw my mom doing this, that. She was a single mom. So I spent most of my time with my cousin Rebecca, and I remember fondly being in the kitchen, being with her, being excited to learn something new. So just touching base on that too, like I said, I come from a single parent family, not by choice, of course. My father passed away when I was just about to turn 5, so I was very young. I didn't really get a chance to know him. So, trying as a young child coming up, there are certain things that if you gravitate to something and you have something that makes you joy and brings you happiness, you'll stick to that, you know. So it was always just food, and it was always just me on the weekends making sure that we go for ice cream, making sure that I had ice cream in my freezer, making sure as a child, you know, I just really loved food and cooking in general. Growing up, I apparently knew from since 5 what I wanted to do, but I made a decision in secondary school. I know it's not the part that, you know, thankfully not everyone has this part where they know exactly who they want to become, but thankfully I knew that I wanted to be a chef. So growing up, I did the right things where I went to culinary school, I got my degree. In doing culinary school, I got the opportunity to go away to finish my internship. So I actually finished my internship in Brazil. And that opened up doors to me because I realized, one, I started to learn a new language, and two, the possibilities really were endless. And three, which I think is most important, in an ice cream shop in Brazil, I got the idea to start Sorvete. And Sorvete is literally ice cream in Portuguese. So it kind of all ties back together. I did my internship, I came back home, I forgot about Sorvete. Well, I didn't forget about it. I just chucked it in the back of my mind. I came back home, I was a line chef for many years, and I even had my own cooking channel. It was called Simply Local. So I was on Eater Food for at least, I believe it was 2 years doing that, because again, it was all about food. It was all about me expressing myself through food. When I was first approached to do the cooking show, I said, "You sure me? You sure you want me to be on it?" And, you know, it's funny now looking back, because everything that I do, me being able to come here and talk to you watching a camera, I remember 6 years ago I was doing this, but I was just cooking, you know. So after cooking, I was actually in the height of my career, what I deemed to be the height of my career. And I had a best friend, and he passed away, unfortunately. And right before he passed, he said, "Renee, we love what you're doing, but I think you just need to slow down a bit and start doing the things that you love." I said, I found it strange that he told me that, and sadly he passed, and I was in a bit of a depressive state after that. And I just gravitated towards ice cream. It's the first thing I picked up. It was something that always brought me joy, it always brought me happiness, and it was something that always brought me fulfillment as well. And I sat there thinking, if I could do this for me, I'm pretty sure I could do that for others. And then instantly I remembered, back in that cafe in Brazil, didn't you have an idea about, you know, starting your own ice cream business? And I left the 2 jobs that I had. Some family members weren't pleased, because leaving up, you know, a fixed job and a fixed income to start your own business is crazy to a lot of people. I think now in 2025, it's deemed as normal, the new normal. But back then, I got the looks. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, so fast forward to now, I'm still that crazy girl who's obsessed with ice cream, who's amazed by ice cream. I now know, because of being a line chef, how to take those crazy ideas and crazy flavors and turn them into ice cream. I do miss the kitchen. I don't get a lot of time to be in the kitchen anymore, but, you know, I use the ice cream side and the knowledge that I have to explore the culinary side of it.
Oh, thank you so much
Yes.
for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Lots to unpack, I must say.
Yes.
So we're going to step back a little.
Sure.
So you would have identified that you had the passing of your dad
Right.
and your best friend.
Yes.
And personally, I know how tragic something like that can
Right.
be. I too would have lost my dad 5 years ago.
Oh, sorry
and
about that.
he was instrumental in my life.
Could you imagine?
So one begs the question, how did you take those experiences, and how did it add to your drive and resilience today?
Right. I think this might come off really weird, but it was a little bit easier with my dad, I would say, because I didn't know him, right? He was a traveler, and I was only 4 years old. So he was going and coming a lot, and I try to have memories. I try, but I can't really find too much memories. So I only have memories growing up based on what my family has to say. So looking back, I always wonder, like, okay, was he this type of person? Was he this type of person? But it didn't affect me I don't want to say directly because it still plays in my psyche sometimes that, I don't have a dad. I never had that feeling of it. But I would say my mom has been literally my mom and dad. And like she stepped up so much that it didn't have a part of me that felt like I was lacking in a sort of way. She was literally very so much instrumental in who I am today and still, is literally at the side of me as I go by. She's always instilled in us that, no matter what we wanted to do, money will and, could never be in the way of what we really wanted to do. She's always instilled in us that, we always treat people with kindness. She's always instilled in me that to consistently persevere. And I don't know why, I don't know how or why God that instilled that in her, that all her children are like that. And when people meet us, they're like, how you also this, how you also this, and you're also friend. It's literally Jelani Andrews. God literally, deemed that in her, and she passed that down to us. So for me, dealing with it, it wasn't a matter of it keeping me down. I knew, life went on, and I knew I still had to persevere no matter the challenges, because it did come with challenges. A single mom of 4 kids at the time, and all of us still went to university, all of us still traveled the world, and she was just a middle wage, income household. So I look back now, I'm like, we went through a lot, but we survived. With my friend, it was difficult because he was literally my best guy friend. And looking back now, there's certain times in my life I wish I'd really just slowed down a bit, gotten the time to enjoy, because there were times where I started, doing the cooking show and I didn't have time for my friends or my family. And looking back, I'm like, wait, I really should have had that time. I really should have done that. And he was always let's go lime now, let's do this now, and I was, no, I have to go to work. I have to make money, So looking back now, it has taught me to not take life so seriously and not be so hard on myself all the time. I'm saying that, but tomorrow when life hits me, I'm like, no, we have to do this, we have to do that, But no, I try now to look back and see, although I had to go through that dark period, it brought something even greater. It's made me into who I am now, because if those instances didn't line up exactly how they were meant to be, I would not have been here today. It really was a difficult phase because I felt having somebody that was that close to me, that was the first time I lost somebody that close to me, and it really did feel like everything was, I didn't know how to express myself at the time, It was just ice cream. It was always going to be ice cream. I would sit down with ice cream every day, every night, But yeah, it really did show me that no matter the challenges, I still will overcome it. And there's something I like to tell myself. I was telling myself this yesterday. I had a webinar to do, and I said, what you're going through right now, picture yourself tomorrow. That Renee, she's already gotten over today. She's already conquered today. She will already meet her family, meet her friends home, So I try my best to use that as like, a little buffer, a little inspiration for me to get past anything that I'm going through.
There's a understanding in business, especially when you have a product. And I remember Famous saying that it is not the product that is sold, but it's the experience. It's all about the packaging.
Correct.
And while we are here and we're talking about ice cream, your story is so transformational to not only young persons, but young girls,
Right.
young women who themselves are going through, even myself, going through difficulties and challenges of life.
Right.
And to know that there's a tomorrow. And I can look back and say, hey, I have conquered this, just as Renee did.
Yes.
So, Renee, you have left Brazil. You have returned. You are the pinnacle of your career. You are a line chef. At some point of time, there would have been a light bulb switch that said, okay, time for me to turn my back away from my career path and to start Sorvete. What was that experience and how did you know now
It
was
was
the time?
Yeah. So it was really after my friend passed. I was going to work. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was going to work at the line chef job, and I was just going through the job. I literally was just doing the actions, and I didn't feel that vigor in me to be like, yeah, I'm learning something today. I literally was just going through the days. I remember feeling it too, and I just said, it's just today. You're just feeling that today, and today led to a week. It led to a month of feeling that way, and then I went to the cooking show, and I started to feel that way too. And I said, but what is this feeling? And I said, Renee, okay, it's enough. So I decided to leave the line chef job. And I said, okay, maybe if I just have one job, I won't feel that way. And maybe it's pressure. Maybe, I really need to take it easy. And then I went to the cooking show, and the same thing happened. It went from feeling that way one time to another time to months passed. And I said, enough is enough. I genuinely, if anybody asks me in this lifetime, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Like, my dreams, I always say, if your dreams are scary, they're not big enough. And me being happy, it sounds so basic to a lot of people, but truly, I just really want to be happy. I really want to. And at that moment, I said, okay, enough is enough. I spoke to my fiance, then boyfriend, and I said, I think this is it. I think, and him, my mom, everybody watched me like, okay, well, you could go ahead and start because we know you have this. And just getting the support from them, it just, kind of pushed me in the right direction. Of course, I still had fear, I had doubts, I had everything in between, but I still started. And looking back now, I didn't want to start the company because I didn't have the right packaging, I didn't have the right machinery, I wasn't really versed in the ice cream world. I was versed in the culinary world. Mm-hmm. So it took time for me to develop the recipe, figure out things. But I realized looking back now, you just need to start. You just need to start. Everything is not going to be lined up perfectly how you want it. Great example of this. We turned 6 years next week Thursday. And last week Thursday was the first time we actually got the main machine that we needed that I wanted 6 years ago. Like the big machine that I needed to start the business. We only got it last week and not 6 years into the business. So I look back now and I'm like, at that moment, I just knew it was time. I also reached out to an ice cream guru she lives in Ohio. And I asked her, because I watched her journey as well, and I said, hey, when did you know it was time to, start your business? When did you know it was time to scale the business? And she says, you just know. You just know. She said, I can't put it into any words, and it's really true. You just know that feeling, that gut feeling that if you don't do anything else in life, you have to just do this, And at that point, I just kind of took a plunge, and I jumped in the deep end. It really was deep. It's still deep, but we go in. Yeah.
What is interesting? Even in this podcast, it is something that I was talking to one of my close friends for a couple of months.
Right.
And then he eventually said, Reid, I'm fed up of your talking. So here what? I'm going online now to book a studio. This is the date of the booking.
Right.
So you organize yourself. You have about a week and a half, and that's how we actually filmed the first episode of the podcast. And like yourself as well, while you have the idea, it's in the back of your mind, you're saying, I need to get this equipment first. I have to get this first.
Yes.
That type of stuff. We didn't have it when the first episode was filmed.
Right.
But look where we are at now, a month and a half after.
Yes.
But what was interesting as well, Renee? Your business model as well for your ice cream company is centered on social media.
Correct.
And social media in 2025 is not an easy thing to handle, right? What I would like to know, how do you navigate the challenges of owning a small business and incorporating social media into your business model?
Okay. If you view social media as the enemy, you make it powerful and it becomes stronger. If you view it as your friend, it opens possibilities for you. I heard this about 3 years ago, not saying with social media, but self-doubt. And anytime I come up with a problem, I just replace the word. So in this instance, it's social media. When I heard that, I said, okay, I could put that to social media. At the time, I started the business, like I told you, I didn't really have that much ice cream knowledge or business knowledge. And I felt at the time things were stagnant. People knew who we were, but things weren't moving as the way I wanted it to do. And my friend jokingly said, hey, why don't you just post your videos on TikTok? And I said, that app where people dancing and singing, I'm not, going on that. Like, I'm not doing that. And so I joke about it now with Leah. But that changed everything. I realized that creating content was not just about showcasing the product, but it was all about the brand and who we are and what we stand for as a company. Being able to show people the day-to-day, what I thought was mundane, is exciting for everybody else. And it's only until I posted, there was this one time I remember, I was posting and I was like, I fed up post, I don't want to post anymore. And I was on my bed and it was time for bed, because if there's one thing I do is make sure I'm on the clock and I sleep and I get my good sleep,
Yes.
And
Happiness.
I remember, yes. And I remember having the phone in my hand and I'm nodding off and I'm seeing the post. All I have to do is just press post, but oh gosh, tomorrow. And I said, okay, Renee, just set up. I pressed post, got up the next day, went onto our website, we are sold out. I said, this can be right. I clicked again. I said, sold out? So from then, I was like, give me more of this. I need to do this more. And so I try to tell small business owners, I really love the fact that I'm really trying to be an advocate for small business owners specifically to use social media to harness that power, because I love the fact that I could go online in 2025, post about something, and it's sold without me trying to do the most or trying to be something I'm not, because I'm always trying to be my authentic self. And people buy from people, they buy from experience. When I learned that I had to take my business model from just the regular mundane posting pictures to trying to figure out new marketing techniques. I had no marketing background either. The University of YouTube, University of Instagram, and the University of TikTok, I studied and I studied hard. So I didn't have any degrees in that background. And when I got to realize that posting content increases visibility, it increases sales, and it increases the confidence I myself to have in the business. Because when we look at the entire scale of things, once a person sees our videos, they have the product and they make a video reaction about it, I myself take, enlightenment in that, because I'm not okay. It's like a reassurance. I'm doing good. I'm doing the right thing. They love the product, because there would be times, I would be kind of unsure. Is this going good? Is this tasting all right? Do the customers love it? And being able to see their reactions, it kind of seals everything together. And it wouldn't be that way if I didn't build this hype around the brand, if I didn't show people the day-to-day. I think people think content creation, as you mentioned, it's difficult if you continue to let it be the enemy. It is. I do it just like if you're doing a chore. You don't want to brush your teeth in the morning. Not everybody wants to wake up and brush your teeth, but it's something you have to do.
Correct.
You have to do. Even me saying this, I fall short many times. Just last week, I didn't want to post because there were a lot of things happening in work that I just felt like everything was crumbling all at once, and I felt like if my head was going to explode, and I said, that's it, I don't want to post anymore. And I got an email asking me to come and do a webinar about posting content, and I just sat there laughing because I was like, look at you. You don't want to post, but people want to hire you to talk about the said posting. And it kind of always just reassures me that I'm on the right track, you're doing all right, it's okay to fail, it's okay to feel down, but you have to get back up. You have to get back up.
So you didn't have experience in ice cream, and you didn't have experience in marketing and from the universities.
Yes.
But you are a social media guru. And initially when we were coming up with this particular episode, we came across from social media, you gained 400 customers in a few weeks.
Yes.
And then your customers had to correct you and say, no, it wasn't a few weeks, it's a few days.
Yes.
So, that is interesting. And that is what I guess we all ought to appreciate from the social media experience. Yes. Were you prepared for that level of demand?
No, I remember when I started to post and I started to see a lot of traction. I remember feeling so overwhelmed, like I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here. I spoke to my fiance and I said, I think I need to close. I don't know what to do. I froze. I froze, and in that moment I said, Renee, here's what. We have this. We could do this. Because at the time, it was just, I had 2 workers, I believe. Yeah, I had 2 workers. No, I mistaken. It was myself and 1 other worker.
So you still
And
had
it
2 workers?
well, 2 workers, yes. It started to feel like if I couldn't handle it anymore. And I remember still powering through when I felt that way. But what happened is that because I'm not accustomed to the amount of hours, well, I shouldn't say that I'm a chef. The hours are nothing. The hours is fine. I'm not afraid of work. But the amount of demand, if it's one thing I always preach, is the quality of our products. And I started to see a drop in equality, and I was like, I rather not grow, but keep my quality. So what I decided to do is that I decided to close just for 1 week, and I went on to social media. I said, here's what, guys. I realized that, the quality is dropping, and I never want us to reach this on a larger scale. So here's what I'm going to do for you. Because essentially it is that I'm doing it for my customers, I said, I'm just taking this week off. We're going to replenish, because at the time, as we make ice cream, everything was finishing. So I needed to come up with a plan that we could have production running and that we could have stuff stored. So when persons ordered, that storage could go and then we could build back again.
Yes.
I said, just bear with me for 1 week. We'll muster this through. I'm doing this for you. I want you to know that, you are at the core of this. This is the reason why I want to create this brand experience where you purchase your product with your hard-earned money and it's not something that you are disappointed by. So I did that. I took the week. In that week, I wrote down what I was feeling. I wrote down the pros, the cons, everything in between. And I realized that, okay, this is what I needed to do for us to, expand here. This is what I needed to do. We need to buy a new machine. This is going to cost X. We need to, how much hours? And I hired somebody else. Slowly but surely, I felt as though, I was carrying again a grasp. As soon as I felt the grasp, again, I had to buy another machine. Again, Renee, we have no freezer space. Renee, we need this. Renee, we need this. Renee. And I'm like, Lord, how? How? I went from managing X amount of staff to now having this different staff. I went from X amount of money making to this amount of money making. I went from this amount of hours sleeping to this amount of hours sleeping. And again, it all seems so overwhelming, and it comes in phases, and I realize, for me, when I post, and obviously when you post more, it builds a lot of traction, right? And I have come to appreciate the traction, because I realized, I said, Renee, I told the business owner this morning, she said she didn't want to post because she's afraid of having too much customers. I said, repeat what you just said. I said, I'm going to say this very politely, but that sounds very silly. I said, listen to me. I said, when I didn't want to post, because my excuse was I didn't want enough customers. I didn't want to attract too much customers. I said, looking back now, that's one of the silliest things I ever said. I said, do you know you are in charge of your business, so you can put people on a wait list? You could let people know that, hey, it's, a backup here, but we're coming to you just now. It doesn't always have to be in the now. I think when we see the big picture, we always try to figure out the big picture now, but you can break it down and you can get through it, But yeah, that I'm still dealing with it, because now we're in a different level of where I meet people on the street and they're like, I love your ice cream so much. We met somebody when I just came in here and she's like, I love your ice cream so much. And I'm like, okay, we need to keep going. We need to keep going, because we need people to feel this way. Just as I started the company wanting joy and happiness, I want people to consistently feel that way. Yeah.
So the doors of Sorvete is open. It's 1 year in, and you are on the anniversary of being in business.
Year, right.
What were some of the hardest lessons that you would have learned?
The first one, as I mentioned before, not everything is going to be perfect, and I'm going to fail and fail and fail and fail over and over and over again. Understanding that I am not alone was very crucial. at times I felt like no one understood what I was going through because no one at the time I knew had a business, so there was no one I could talk to about business. And I felt as though if I just keep it in, I will be fine. But looking back now, had I opened up to my family members a little bit more or my friends, I keep thinking that they won't understand, but that was just my perception of them, It wasn't the truth. So definitely the hardest thing was learning that I wasn't in it alone. Even though I felt as though I was alone, I wasn't alone. Second thing was making sure that I understood that failing was coming, it was happening, and it's going to come was another thing. Understanding that confidence is a verb in my book, so it's something consistent and doing. It's not an action now and that's it. I had to constantly build that confidence over time. And it was okay that I felt shy. It was okay that I felt nervous about a lot of things. Learning that from year one, learning that being me is exactly who I needed to be. I always thought first maybe I needed to be this person, that person, just to, show a better image. Being me is exactly who I needed to be.
So, gourmet ice cream is a new niche in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
And you have not only opened that market, but you have opened the floodgates, and almost everybody now wants, actually, let me put it this way, one does not identify ice cream anymore as just, vanilla and cookies and cream.
Correct, yes.
But what was most interesting and transformative in your story is that from not being sure, first year having challenges and still not being sure, to now not only promoting but servicing all-inclusive events at
Yes.
Carnival. How has that transformation been for you within 6 years? And how was the experience during the Carnival period?
Well, during Carnival, we started doing Carnival about 3 years ago. And when we first got the contract to do it, I was like, me? Sure? Me? I think this is when we just took off on social media as well. So we were a little bit out there for people to, see us. And Carnival was something that opened my eyes because I met so many people on the streets saying, we love your product, we love your ice cream, could you be on the East-West corridor? Could you do this more? Could you be this? And I love the Crix Tea, I love this, I love that. And it just showed me that I just needed to continue. That's all I learned, that I just need to continue posting because I thought I posted once, and that's just enough. No, it's something that you have to consistently do. Being in the Carnival space, I'm not Carnival baby, but being there and being able to look and see my staff hand out products and me myself being there, being able to hand out the product, I just felt a sense of, it was just a sense of really happiness, like wow, I get to do this for a living. I get to be this happy. I get to be in Carnival. People might see it as work, but I don't ever see it as work. I see it as I'm enjoying myself.
Correct. You're doing
Hey, you want a popsicle? Yeah. How was the road? It was good. The sun hot. Boy, way. That's how I see it. That is how I see it. And I love groovy soca. So anytime I hear Kes, my fiance knows Kes is, anytime I hear Kes, that's it. That's it. So
I got Kes in trouble.
I saw it as fun. So anytime when we were in the all-inclusives as well, the first all-inclusive we did, my brother-in-law, he told me, he said, he saw that I was kind of like nervous because it was my first vet, you know. He's like, Ren, listen, watch. I literally listened and watched, and I realized people were just having fun and having a time. He said, all your hard work done because the line of business that we're in, it's not that we're making anything on the spot. The hard work is in the preparation to the day. All you have to do is just enjoy yourself now. And when he told me that, I was like, that's true. Hi, you want a popsicle? Hi, you want an ice cream? And it just grew from that, and I was really grateful for it. I remember going on social media last year saying that I have this vision of being on the road for Monday and Tuesday, and I want it to happen. And the last thing I said in the video, I don't know if future Renee is going to hate herself. This was last year, November, October, I can't remember. I don't know if future Renee is going to hate herself, but I'm putting this video out there. And lo and behold, we got the opportunity to be with Humor this year for Monday and Tuesday. And that just kind of, sealed everything. I'm still amazed by the amount of people that are, tuning in or following us and love our products. It's still, up to this day, still baffles me that people, really want to come out and just follow the journey along. But it has been a fun experience. And next year Carnival, I'm hoping to, amp that up and to be even in more events, Transitioning from year 1 to year 6 with the flavors, I started off very timid because I wasn't sure if people would understand where I was going with this. We as trained Begonians are accustomed to our local homemade ice cream, and nothing is wrong with that, because I tell my fiance all the time we could go for a scoop of homemade ice cream, because that is something embedded in us as a child. That's something we knew and we went for on a Sunday, So I didn't know if people would understand where I was coming from with this artisanal line of frozen desserts. Like, what's that and why that's so expensive and why is that Häagen-Dazs price when you are not Häagen-Dazs? Who are you? So I started off very timid in terms of the flavor profiles I would have. It wouldn't be the typical vanilla, but it would be a little bit, amped up in a sense. But I really started to explore, I believe, after the first year passed. I was like, Renee, is either you doing this or you're not doing this? You can't be in and out. You can't be hot and cold. Choose one, And the flavors grew from there. I always say, everything in your life is leading you to where you're supposed to be. And if I wasn't a chef, I would not have understood how flavors work. So I wouldn't have known and been confident enough to sell goat cheese ice cream or to sell avocado ice cream. I wouldn't have been confident. So looking back, it all had a part to play in who I am today and who the brand is today.
Who are you? You are Sorvete TT.
Yes.
And Sorvete TT prides itself of being 85% eco-friendly. Why is sustainability so important for the brand?
So when I was starting a business, I actually was a part of a agripreneurship program. And I know when you think of ice cream, you probably don't associate it with agriculture, but it is, because literally cream, the milk, chocolate, a lot of things we use are agriculture, agriculture based. And when I went into that program, I then learned that I could be a good business, have a good brand, and still have other goals aligned with the brand. And I always wanted to do right by that in terms of we align the packaging with our eco-friendly. At the time, it wasn't something that was well known. I feel as though Trinidad was now kind of launching into that eco-friendly style. But I grew a sense of appreciation through that class that I did for the agriculture side of our business. And I said, if it is that you are true to your word with the quality of your product itself, you should be true to your word with the quality in, your packaging. So up to this day, we still use a lot of eco-friendly packaging, and sometimes I question certain things in the business and certain things in terms of should we go more eco-friendly? Should we not go more eco-friendly? Should we turn our back on certain things? But as we progress and as the business progress, I use the universities as my guide to be able to help me understand, how does eco-friendly packaging fit into our why? It's because of the quality, it's because of what we stand for. So that's a little reason why it kind of plays a factor within us.
So that is really interesting, the why. And small business, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the world,
right.
It's not something easy to navigate through. And you would have been a careered individual.
Right.
Navigating culinary arts, going to university, even coming back and doing the show.
Right.
And now starting your small business, now until year 6.
Yes.
You would have Renee Andrews, the leader, in year 1, would have been Renee Andrews.
Right.
And Renee Andrews, the leader, in year 6.
Mm-hmm.
One suspects that there would be some level of evolution.
Correct.
How has your leadership style changed?
Wow. Anytime somebody asks me this question now, I'm like amazed because I thought I was a good leader. I quickly realized last year the business grew again and I had to adapt to a lot of things. Doing the business, there wasn't anyone to teach me how to be a leader. I had to learn how to be a leader on my own. I had to fall, I had to learn. And last year I felt as though like it was the worst period in Sorvete's life and my life because the leadership wasn't where it was supposed to be. And I could feel the business crumbling because of that. I had to take on more staff. I was now in charge of X amount of persons when I wasn't, and it happened overnight, you know. I decided to sit down and I said, from University or YouTube, I saw a video and a guy in the crowd was talking to someone else on a panel and he was saying, you know, my workers are X, Y, and Z, they're doing this, I'm hiring, I'm firing, and what's the problem? And the guy said, it's you. And I was like, well, you could tell him on that, is him? And then I sat down with my fiance and I said, is it really me? Like, am I the problem? Is it me? Like, because no matter what I did, I tried to be a good leader. Nothing was coming through, nothing was helping. So he said, let's have a meeting, let's talk about it. And in talking to my staff is when I understood the type of leader that I was and the type of leader that I needed to be. The culture in the work environment was not how it was supposed to be. I thought the culture was a very open one where you could come, you know, tell me any problems or anything like that and everything would be fine. But no, they felt that I was a bit, closed off at some times, that didn't feel confident to come and talk to me. And I said, I sat down, I said, but I talk to everybody, like, you know, like in the back of my mind. And something one of them told me, the workers that is, sometimes, Renee, I feel like I could tell you something and, you know, your facial expression doesn't, you know, make me want to come back and say anything more. And I said, me? You know, and it's the small things that they said struck a nerve within me. I had to change the culture because the culture started with me. I thought, you know, you pay your workers fine, you treat them with respect, everything will be fine. No, but the culture has to start from me and it has to start within me. And learning that this year, sitting with them, getting to understand them, I think I lacked a bit of empathy as well. I was so focused on the business and running the business that I didn't realize that that little part of me lacked empathy. And just tweaking that, I realize now that I'm a communicative leader as I try my best to be, because in the past I clearly wasn't. They let me know that I really wasn't, and it took me by shock that I thought I was being that way. I try that the culture is a place where you come to work, you feel comfortable. Obviously, it's work at the end of the day, but it's a place where you could come and not feel threatened. It's a place where it's your birthday, we celebrate your birthday because life is meant to be celebrated. It's a place where your co-workers aren't on your back. Everybody, it's a team, you know, but it is a constant, just like building confidence, it's something over time. Developing that culture and staying within that culture is something that I have to constantly work on.
So we're going into the next segment called Rapid Blue. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. And the very first thing that comes to your mind, that's the answer that we want to hear.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
I think so.
So have you figured out if your seat, why your seat is getting warm?
I have. It is funny. It is funny when people tell me certain things like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, I have a personal page now that I post on, and I forget that I have a personal page sometimes that I post on. But yes, I figured it out.
Nice.
I have heat warming seats.
Yeah. Why Crix Tea?
It was a childhood staple of mine. I grew up eating Crix Tea as a child, and I wanted to transform that into ice cream.
What is one food trend you hate?
Don't cancel me. I don't like baigan. I don't like roast baigan. I don't like cook anything with... I don't like eggplant. I don't. Sorry. Next.
What was one of the best advice you have ever gotten?
this is rapid, Renee. It's so much thing coming through my mind. So I'm like, okay, no. The best one is about being able to be okay with self-doubt and knowing that you will fail and that it will be okay.
And what would you tell 9-year-old Renee?
9-year-old Renee, it's going to be okay. It really is. You're not alone. I think that's most important, that you are not alone. Yeah.
Nice. Now, you are in an industry that is primarily dominated by men, and that's business.
Right.
And for a lot of young girls, women, while they may have the passion, they may have the ideas, they may have the drive, but you know, they don't have, afraid
Right.
to cross that hurdle. What were the challenges you encountered as a woman in business?
I realized that maybe not everyone is going to appreciate your work, and it's okay. There was a time I met someone, and he told me, why didn't stick to cooking? That was going good. And I said, well, I enjoy what I do now, so why not stick to this, you know? Being a woman in this industry, being Johannes Andrews' daughter, I didn't let that stop me. I took that and I would approach men and I would ask them about certain things for business. It's intimidating. It still is intimidating right now. But I gravitated towards gaining knowledge. And I would say to any young woman, always remembering your why will always bring you back to the center of everything, because your why is more stronger than anything else out there. And if it is that you stick to your why, talking to a male figure, it may seem daunting at first, but remember, it's going to bring you back to that why and going to catapult that why into a bigger, success. I honestly, this might sound weird, but I honestly don't let male figures get to me, in a sense. I haven't really come across someone that has been very difficult to me per se, but I have been in instances where I've seen males progress in the chef industry and see where females are not. But again, I don't let it get to me. Building that confidence that you need to get is something that plays a part of it. Seeing yourself as not just a woman, but you're so much more than that. You have so much more to bring to the table, I like when young women realize within themselves how much stronger they are. It's only until you go through all these trials that you realize how much stronger you are. And I like when they get that aha moment and it's like, hey, I can do this. I could probably do it better than you too. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So, Renee, where do you see Sorvete in the next 5 years? What's next?
It will always be about my happiness. All I want for Sorvete, I know the Sorvete farm has this huge vision of me being in every grocery and being regional, international, but all I dreamed of since I started that cafe is to have a cafe like that, an ice cream cafe that I could call my own, that I could sit in, that I could see families being happy, having the product, that, I could come to work and feel a sense of pride within me. And it may seem small to a lot of people, but that's really where I want to go within the next 5 years, and I'm pushing for that this year, actually, to start off. I know it's not going to be exactly what I want, but it's going to be a start. I just dream of having an ice cream cafe and just looking over the counter and just seeing everything unfold, seeing all the hard work come to fruition, because it's just what I wanted. Yeah.
So what is the impact that you want to leave?
I want everybody to understand, and I want to leave that nothing is impossible. As I mentioned before, everything seems a lot all at once, but in breaking it down into sections, it is possible. Because when I was even learning Portuguese to go to Brazil, at first I was like, I don't know this language. How am I going to? I was in a hotel with 500 persons, and only 2 persons spoke English, sorry, 2 persons. I had to figure it out. I said, Renee, you're here for 3 months. Let's figure it out. I had to break it down. Every day, I went and learned a new word. Every day, I went and learned a new phrase. And before I left, I was talking like if I was there, like the passport lady. She was like, you sure? Was it not Brasileira? I was like, no, I'm not. But seeing it in hindsight, I thought it was this big problem. I broke it down little by little, and I want people to get that too, that you're watching my year 6 and in your year 1 thinking that it's so much, but I had 1 to 5 to try to figure this out to be in 6. So I just want you to break it down, and slowly but surely you will achieve it. You just have to have that confidence within you, and remember that once you make self-doubt or social media or anything negative and you keep it as the enemy, it will have power. You have to make it your friend so you can unlock all the potential it has.
Excellent. So, Renee, if an individual wants to either get in contact with you,
Sure.
or they want to have a taste
Right.
of your delicious ice cream,
Yes.
how does one do that?
Okay, so we take orders via our website. It's sorvetettt.com, sorvetettt.com. Or you can visit one of the retailers. We have one in South, which is Bubble Cantina in Vista Bella. We also have one in Central, Bread and Butter, Brentwood Mall. The West, the Port of Spain West Corridor has Mole Marketplace in Petite Valley. And in the East, we have Noor Coffee Lab, that's in St. Augustine. Tobago Family, we're there as well. In the fairways, you can check them out. Or we started something new, which is soft serve Sundays. Every Sunday now, you can come and get delicious soft serve from us on Hobson Street, that is in San Fernando. You can also contact us at 335-1125. You can WhatsApp or you can call. Or any of our social media platforms, we're very active on it as well.
Excellent. So, listeners of the Blueprints podcast, we have had an enjoyable conversation with Renee Andrews, where we have learned that purpose is key. Be bold in asking the questions, and understand that though the task may seem big and large, break it up into small chunks and you're going to get there. Be resilient, persevere, and ensure that you take your idea and make it a reality. Renee, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For being a part of this podcast.
You're most welcome.
And I want to even say for joining the Blueprint family.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me.
Yes. And until we see each other on the next episode of The Blueprint, remember, every Thursday, look at us on all our social media pages. And email us at theblueprint2025@gmail.com, where you can nominate who our next guest will be. Thank you. Until next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.